Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the May 27th, 2020 meeting of the Abington Finance Committee. Tonight we are continuing the process of going over both the budget and the warrant articles for the special and annual town meetings that are coming up, likely at this point to be scheduled for June 22nd. A bill is making its way through both the House and the Senate that will likely pass to lower the quorum, to allow towns to lower their quorum, which will allow us to meet in late June and finalize our budget process. I'm going to quickly share my screen with the agenda for tonight. We have our agenda as we are meeting. We have our town manager, Scott Lambiese, and our town accountant, Sue Moquin, here on Zoom with us tonight. We are very pleased to have them. We've got new information from them that's hot off the presses on both the budget and the warrant articles. So we will work on those. Then we'll go through any liaison reports, correspondence. I still have not done up minutes. We still don't have minutes. Definitely missing our recording secretary, Deb Libby, who is home and safe, but not able to get on the Zoom meetings with us, unfortunately. Definitely miss Deb. All right, so moving right in, I think we should start with the biggest and head to the budget. I just emailed out to everybody the latest budget numbers from Scott and Sue. Should have an email on that. I will flip my screen over to that. Just switch this. There it is. Share there. All right, can you see my screen sharing the budget worksheet?
Yep.
Scott and Sue, do you want to take us through what has changed since our last iteration of this?
I don't think anybody can see the actual worksheet. At least I can't, but I do have.
Yeah, we do see your email, Matt.
See my email?
This is definitely a question of if you have really, really good eyesight.
Hang on a second. Let me try this again.
You got to download it and zoom it in.
I did download it. And
no, I mean Greg. You haven't had time to see that.
Let's just do this.
I don't even know what that means, Joe.
All right.
Is that any better?
Hey, there you go.
There we go.
So a lot of what we reduced since probably the first time that I met with this committee, or we went in and we took out any of those proposed positions. There was a town planner position that was in there. There was a civilian worker for the police department that was in there. We went and we looked at what our budget was for trash, what our budget was for health insurance, liability insurance, and we kind of looked at those things. And then Sue went pretty much through everybody's budget, and we asked everybody to save where they could and to cut where they could, and I think a lot of us took out things that even small things here and there that we found that we could take out from expenses, and whether it be continuing ed or things like that we knew we could put off for a year. Sue, I think you can probably give a better rundown if you're still there. I don't see if of some of the areas that she found savings in.
A lot of it was travel and expenses for meetings and things like that, that obviously probably not going to happen for the next year or so. Fire chief was able to take some money out of his budget by negotiating with his unions. Police chief took some money out of his budget by taking positions that were budgeted but not filled. So there's there was 2 positions that he wanted, and there was 1 position that was budgeted but not filled. So he was able to give us about $140,000. We took some money out of our estimated trash and recycling budget and health insurance budget. And we also took a look at our liability. We talked to our insurance agent, and there was a little bit of padding in there. We were able to move some money out of there. And then other than that, it was just people giving us $10,000 or $5,000 out of their budgets here and there.
So I think it reflects, what was it, $1.1 million or $1.2 million, Sue? That
it was almost $1.2 million, and we basically closed it down.
And this was in reaction to reducing our, obviously we looked at not this year's revenue projections, but we actually kind of reduced based on what last year's revenue being, the unrestricted government and Chapter 70. And we're doing the best with zero information coming up out of the state. And that was going to be my next question is, have we gotten any new information from the state? No, we haven't. We have had some, the county has reached out to us on some relief money that's there for COVID related expenses, but not for revenue replacement. But there is talk. There's talk, I know, at the national level, and certainly talk at the local level, that whatever the next relief package comes down from Washington would hopefully contemplate, revenue relief for the towns that are in the cities. And but again, we don't know. We don't know, so we're not counting on it. So this is the best we can do for now. And that's, as I said, I think our strategy of being careful with the free cash and with the items for free cash and, putting that stuff into stabilization. If we have to have a special to backfeed any of these estimates, whether it be the
health or the liability.
Yeah, exactly. Then we can go to town meeting and we can get that. Or if it's not much, like I said, the other reason that we wanted to give better reserve amount to your committee was on the offshot that we can't have a town meeting, or we can't get in there, or for whatever reason, we need to come to you and the selectmen. It would be easier. In our anticipation is, unlike most years where you wouldn't want to ever go to stabilization, or you wouldn't want to grab free cash to try and offset some budget expenses, we do expect the revenue to return. We just don't expect it to return
right
this
away.
year. We don't expect it to return necessarily next year. And my guess is even our third year might be a difficult year where we're, but we positions that we're not filling, eventually will have to be filled. Eventually we're going to have to make some decisions down the road, whether, everybody, whether it's in town hall or any other department that I've seen, everybody is doing a lot with minimal staff. When I look at all of the different responsibilities that have been put on Sue, look at the different responsibilities that have been put on our treasurer, and even our the town clerk has responsibilities that just aren't necessarily typical. So we're doing a lot, getting everything done, but we're doing it with a very limited amount of people. We couldn't possibly do it with less. So that's the troubling part.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I think we're in as good a shape as we can be. Hopefully, You know, like we said, good news will come down from Washington, but we're not counting on it.
Does anyone have questions for Scott or Sue?
I do. This is Chris.
I'm gonna say, Chris, you look like you're ready to
Yeah,
ask.
I'm a little confused because the last time I saw the budget, it was 56,138, right? Am I reading that wrong? 56,136. You cut out 1,000,002, and now it's higher than that.
I'm not sure which
Well, the last one
version that you were looking at. I only know the version that I came in with was higher. The version that was 57,497, I think, when I started looking at it.
Chris, was that the version that didn't have the actuals in it? There were some estimates, I think, in our preliminary versions that we got.
recent, but okay. It just doesn't seem to be going down. That's all. All right.
Looking to see if I can find the most recent version of the.
Are you, Chris, are you looking at the bottom line from the Vadar printouts, or are you looking at the summary worksheets?
The summary worksheets.
Okay.
Like, doesn't have a date on it. It wasn't the original. The original was different than that. I have the original too. The original was about the same, a little less. But I know it's got some estimates, but I don't, maybe we never got the 57 one. I know there was one we know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the version from April 15th, and I see the 56,136. I think that Chris.
Yeah, that's one I have.
Okay, but there must be. I'm assuming that there's a version since April 15th that has the 57 version.
So we didn't get that. If there is one.
Yeah, my original one, and I don't have the dates on. They weren't dated, but it was 57 plus.
Just trying to look through.
But what I do know now is what we are putting in front of you is a lot less. You know, and maybe if you went to the summary sheet for revenue, you'll see where we.
Well, that's what I was
reduced.
looking at. But, okay.
There we go.
Maybe the April 15th hadn't been updated.
That's the newest one right there, Matt.
Trying to quickly look while I have that up on the screen to see if I have an older version. I didn't have a hard copy of an older version.
Okay. This is what we have. This is what we have. It just seems.
So I had a quick question. You mentioned cuts to the trash collection, but I guess I thought that we had anticipated the cost of that going up as opposed to down. So I'm just curious how we were able to lower that budget item.
It's an estimated, you know, when we looked at the contract, he was sort of, it wasn't that we lowered it, that we went on the lower end of the estimation for it.
Got it.
So
Okay.
yeah, it very well, depending on, you know, hauling costs and tipping fees, and, you know, we could end up asking for supplemental on that. But again, we went with the low end of it because it just seems to be our best bet right now is to hope for the best. You know,
Okay.
it's very difficult to come up with an accurate number for something like the trash.
Mhm.
So Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're projecting an increase from fiscal year 20, but less of an increase than what we were projecting in the original budget.
Correct.
That
Yeah,
answer
so
what
we
you
are
were
still
asking.
anticipating, there is a built-in increase in it, and we are anticipating that. You know, hopefully it won't be worse than our anticipation.
Further questions on the budget?
Can you go down a little further? Have we made a
Yep.
reduction on the meals tax? Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, we're hoping, you know, we've obviously lost a good chunk of the year on that meals tax, but we are hoping to see those restaurants get back up and running fairly soon. And we do have a plan afoot to try and expedite helping them get some outdoor seating if they you know, get to that next phase.
And I did hear, just as a random note for the restaurant industry, that before all of the lockdowns started, 60% of meals in the United States were eaten outside of the home.
60.
And that's
Wow.
60. And that's dropped to about 20% at this point, where people are getting takeout or something. And so big swing right there.
Yeah.
And supermarkets had to adjust to actually provide almost double the amount of food that they were providing for meals.
Everybody's going to be healthier.
And have a little extra money in their pocket. At least those who are still employed.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
right. Any further questions? I think it's still wise for us, since we are not at our deadline of providing a recommendation on all warrant items. I think for the budget, it's still wise for us to wait if we think that there's going to be any chance of more solidified state numbers before a week or two from now. Sue or Scott, do we think there's any?
I wouldn't count on it, but it certainly doesn't hurt to hold off. I mean,
We have one more meeting, right, before the deadline?
Yeah, we have next week's meeting.
Okay.
So my inclination would be to wait to vote, but I would accept a motion if anyone wants to move on the budget. Seeing heads shaking, so we will move on to our next item. We will leave the budget still unvoted. The next article, so we'll quickly go to the special town meeting warrant. We have voted on Articles 1, 2, and 3. Article 1, sick leave buyback. Article 2 is snow and ice removal. Article 3 is the stabilization funds. And Article 3 we voted last week, as we determined that that number is not actually going to change based on the changes we've made to the capital plan. Article 4 we discussed in one of our earlier meetings, I think it was 2 weeks ago, taking Article 4 off of the warrant, as we don't need to do transfers at town meeting. We can do those with Sue in a meeting that we have. Sue, should we try to should we count on that being taken off, or should we provide a recommendation in
No,
case?
actually, I'm taking it off right now.
Okay. All right. So Article 4 will be removed from the special town meeting warrant. So we are done with our recommendations for the special town meeting. Moving over to the annual, can you all see my screen with the annual? Article 1 is the budget. Not hearing anything.
I see it.
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear it. I can see it. Yeah.
All right. Some of this has been reorganized as we're trying to group things together. So some of these are not in the same order that we voted, or don't have the same numbers that we voted on them on before. Scott and Sue, correct me if I'm wrong, but we don't need to revote them because the number changed, do we?
Correct.
No.
Good. So Article 1 was the budget. We're holding off till next week on that one. Article 2 is we have moved on. Article 3 we've moved on. Article 4. This is one that I discovered when looking over things in between last week's meeting and this, that 2 weeks ago we decided to wait for further information and not take action yet. And last week we forgot to go over it. And by we, I mean me. This one was the article regarding revolving funds. So this one is to see if the town will vote in accordance with Mass General Law to amend the town's bylaws to establish the following new revolving fund, set the fiscal year 2021 spending limit for the revolving fund at $5,000. With such expenditure limit to be applicable for each fiscal year until such time as it is approved. This one was for town clerk collecting fees.
So this is to spend money to make money, correct? So we need to spend money in order to collect past due stuff?
I believe that's correct. Sue, that's what this one was for, correct?
It's actually, people come in and ask for public records requests, and we charge them for flash drives to put things on, like planning documents on and stuff like that. So it's like, let's say $10 for a flash drive and $10 for the employee's time. So that usually goes into the general fund, but each department has to take out has to spend money on those flash drives or paper or anything like that to get that stuff out to the customers. And so this is just a mechanism to say they're paying us, and that's where we're getting the money to buy the supplies to get them what they are requesting without having to take it out of our general fund money. It's a big thing for planning and building and town clerk's office the most. So we put it under the town clerk just to centralize it into one place instead of having 3 separate articles for the same purpose.
Makes sense. A motion to recommend.
Second.
Is that Russ with the second?
Yep.
Okay. There's a motion to recommend. There's a second. Do we have any further discussion on this article? Anyone have questions? Sue did a very good job explaining it just now, I think. Without any further discussion, all those in favor of recommending Article 4? All those opposed? Abstaining? It is recommended.
Matt, can you go back to Article 3, the capital, and confirm that everything is that's on there you guys are recommending, including the window, the fire alarm system, and everything that's on? Just
so going back through, we discussed the police cruisers. We discussed in great detail the deputy fire chief's car. We discussed the trash and recycle carts, which was a decrease in the amount there. We discussed the fire alarms. We discussed also in great detail the drive-through window. We discussed the MS4 permitting, and we discussed the DPW's waste oil furnace. And then the others were from water, sewer, and golf, revolving funds or earnings, or
Okay.
those departments on accounts. Does everyone agree that those are all things that we have already discussed and maintained in the budget?
Yeah.
Or in the capital plan,
Yeah.
not specifically the budget. All right. Moving down, number 5 is the Community Preservation Committee, which we recommended. Article 6 is FEMA map, which we are deferring to the planning board. Article 7, we need to take action on. That is the new article that we discussed last week, where instead of putting the money that we have taken out of the capital plan into stabilization, we are going to add that to the $50,000 that we are budgeting into the reserve fund for the finance committee.
I want to change that number on you. So
Numbers are changing all over the place.
I know. So I did the 85. That was for the painting of the Furlio and the reduction in the trash carts.
Yep.
But we also decided last week to take out the $9,000 for the wage classification, that we weren't ready to fund that. And I don't know where you guys still stand with the Griffin's Dairy 10,000 with the liability, but if we take that 10,000 and the 9,000, then that number would change to 104,000.
Okay, so
the 9,000 is definitely you guys voted out. And I know there's been some sort of controversy with the Griffin's Dairy and what they wanted for equipment. And I've gotten a few phone calls from a selectman, that he's had talks with them about wanting their equipment. And I know Scott met with Griffin's Dairy today. So Scott, if you can speak on what your final outcome was on that.
Scott,
Yeah, Matt, maybe you want to jump to the other articles.
Yeah, I think we should wait on Article 7 before we vote to make sure that the other articles are all finalized before we vote on that amount. But that was a very good point to both Sue and Scott. So let's put a pin in number 7. Number 8 we voted on, that's out of district transportation. Article 9 we voted on, that's health imperatives. Article 10, Arc at the South Shore, we voted on. Article 11 we voted on and passed over for those following along at home. Article 12 we voted on for this sewer main. Article 13, we need to revisit Article 13 because the amount has changed on this since we voted on this. So this was the article for security cameras and doors for the school system. The number that we had in there previously was $150,000. The number was supposed to be $250,000. And that's what's listed in there now.
So do we have any idea of what the actual quote is? Because that number feels sort of arbitrary. I'm just curious if that's close or if it's an up to situation like some of the others are.
I do know, just as a general point, when articles are voted on like this with an amount, the articles are specifically an up to amount. It can be less can be spent, but not more. But Sue, do you have any more information on what the exact numbers are of this and where the cameras and doors? I believe we had discussed that it was Woodsdale and Beaverbrook. Correct.
And Felicia did get a pretty solid couple of quotes, so that's where she's in the middle at with for what the quotes that she did get. And it's not just the cameras and access to the building. They don't have the wiring in place either. So it is also putting the wiring in place to a computer system, within the building that can monitor this stuff. So like when we did town hall cost us less than $20,000, but the wiring was already in place. In those buildings, the wiring is not in place for a full set of security systems, and it's not just the exterior doors, it's for interior corridors and things like that. So she did get 3 quotes, and this is kind of like the in-between of what she got.
And before we listed it as borrowing, here it says, it doesn't specifically say, it says one of the options, but will this be a borrowing or will it be a?
It will be a borrowing, but town council says you have to list all options.
Oh, okay.
Recommend Article 13.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. It was Russ, and sorry, I didn't catch who the.
Justin.
Thanks, Justin.
Yep.
Any further discussion on Article 13? Without any further discussion, all those in favor of recommending Article 13? All those opposed, abstaining, it is unanimous. All right, Article 14 was the police siding, which we discussed and recommended, and Greg is going to work with Scott on seeing what else we can do to keep that under the 120. We appreciate his efforts there and Scott's efforts.
We're going to strap on some tool belts.
What will be Article 15, we have, if you note on the screen here, 2 Article 16s. The first one is Article 15 for real. Was the fire engine repairs, which we recommended. Article 16 is one for us to bring back up if someone wants to bring this back up. We can make a motion to reconsider Article 16. And this is Griffin's Dairy, which we have more information on, as I was saying.
Yeah, I can give you a lot more background.
As well. Do we have a motion to reconsider Article 16?
Motion to reconsider.
Second.
Yes. And then, was that Justin with the second? No. Joe?
Joe, I think.
Okay, thanks. I keep looking down to take notes and missing who's seconds.
No worries.
Any discussion on reconsidering? That any of those in favor of reconsidering Article 16? All those opposed to reconsidering Article 16? Abstaining? Greg, you didn't vote. I gave you 3 options.
Oh, sorry. Go over it again.
Reconsider Article 16, which just means that we talk about it again. Don't reconsider it or abstain.
This is the Griffin's Dairy one.
Yes.
I think, yes, we should reconsider it. Yes, I thought maybe.
Okay. All right. Ayes have it. We will reconsider. Scott, can you tell us what you found out from the committee?
Okay, so the farm has been working. They have been mowing it. They do own a couple of pieces of equipment that had been donated to them. It is town-owned land. They're a legit committee. They are an appointed committee. So as such, they would be considered special town employees, and they would be covered for our insurance purposes. The mowers that they have are both ride-on mowers, and they are both very old. Greg, I think even you would say they might not be worth salvaging, but they were pretty bad shape, and they were donated in the past. So what they want to buy is just a typical small ride-on mower, and they have a price from Four Seasons for, it was $3,000.
Here, I'm gonna open up that document and
Okay.
put it on the screen share. Hang on a second.
The other equipment that they have listed on there is actually, it's not, commercial grade equipment. It's kind of, they want a weed whacker. I told them that the chipper was kind of a non-starter for all of us, but again, it wasn't like, they weren't looking for this big giant one. They just kind of want this small one, which, as you can see just by the prices, the important thing to them, I mean, they would love to buy all of those items, obviously. But the Cub Cadet was only $3,000. And again, in order of importance, they'd more want that weed whacker. They have a couple of tractor dump carts that Jim Conley managed to salvage for them. They probably would work with this new Cub Cadet if they were to get the new Cub Cadet. So if you were to go out there, if you have an opportunity to go and visit the farm, they've done some great work. There are some really nice walking trails there. There's a huge community garden. So there's a lot of people who have pieces of real estate there that they garden. I don't know if there's any available, but there seemed like there might have been. So there's just all volunteers working on it. They do have a shed that was donated and it was rebuilt, and it's actually in very good shape. They rebuilt it with volunteers, and the Rotary Club actually helped them with it. They had a lot of stuff. All the materials were donated. So they do have a secure place for this equipment. It's a good size shed. Part of the farm is hayed by a gentleman out of Duxbury on occasion, who will grow the hay, and he'll go in and harvest the hay, and he uses that to feed horses. Another part is leased out to a farmer who does some, I think he's got some peanuts growing this year or something. And then the rest of it is just sort of open space. I mean, they seem to have a couple different plans for it, but it is a nice place. They keep it up nice. And I don't have a problem with them asking for a Cub Cadet and a weed whacker, and the price is certainly a lot less. What I told them that I would recommend that you keep this on and let town meeting make the decision, but they would be bound by the same philosophy that we're holding out with everybody else, that we're not spending anything right now. So just, town meeting may say it's okay, but we may not let you buy it, or I may not let you buy it anyway. So, but it is a worthwhile venture. I mean, I don't know if you folks have ever had a chance to go by and take a look at it. The walking trails are nice. I don't know, much about the history over there, but it did seem like it was worthwhile.
Scott, I have a question for you. The peanut farmer that's leasing the land, where do those proceeds go to?
I don't know. I just found out about it. I was actually kind of poking through trying to find the new lease agreement, because I think originally it was a 1-year lease agreement. The lease agreement that I saw, it was only paying $1 to the town. So I'm not sure what what kind of money he's making off of it or where it's going. I don't know if any of it's being donated to the farm or not. I really don't.
It actually just goes to the general fund, and it is minimal. It's just an agreement to say that he can use that portion of the land, and he's paying us a dollar or whatever it is for the use of the land, and he takes liability for what's going on that piece of the property.
Who made that deal?
This is the second year, so I would say it started with Griffin's Dairy Committee and this person, and obviously in order to make the deal, it had to go through the town manager, so the town manager made the deal.
So how much money does this guy make off the land?
I don't know, to be honest with you.
I saw some prices that were put in there, and I mean, it was like bushel prices for what, depending on what he was growing. So I imagine it all depends on the amount of crop, the harvest, and then what he's going to get at market for it. But
And that he's
Is
keeping
it
up.
enough to buy a Cub Cadet?
probably,
That would be one
probably
question.
not. But
And that he's keeping up that part of the land. So he's maintaining that land that we don't have to maintain.
what I would also recommend, though, and then, like I said, I think it's probably worthwhile to keep it on. I would not feel comfortable buying them a $10,000 mower, but certainly a small ride-on mower that's safe compared to what they're riding on now. I don't have a problem with that. The property needs to be maintained. Somebody has to mow it. As it is, it's volunteers doing it. It would take probably 2 days of 2 guys on the DPW if we were to assign it to them. And I think that they're probably stretched thin and not able to do this. So
I think
So
some
can I
of the.
Sorry, go ahead, Matt.
Nope, Justin, go ahead.
So the warrant articles for $10,000, they're asking for 4,200-ish. I mean, does it make sense to lower it so that they don't spend 10,000, or is there some control to keep them from spending more than what they put here? Or?
I would recommend that you actually probably go like $3,500, because that way they can get the Cub Cadet. They can get a warranty and then get their weed whacker.
So one of the major concerns that we had was non-town employees and the liability. So if it is just committee members who are using the equipment, they are covered under the special municipal employee status. That takes away the liability concern that we had there. The other big concerns, other than price, which we've talked about already, the other big concern we had was just the general liability of a wood chipper. And I don't think any of us are on board with the wood chipper. But.
Well, the only thing I was saying, Matt, is I just Googled this particular one, and I've never used one, so maybe Greg, you have a better opinion, but these things look pretty safe. I mean, they're not like this gigantic one you see on
No, I thought we were talking about like a $5,000, $10,000 chipper.
No, this thing is like, what is it, like 212 cc, 6.5 horsepower?
Yeah, but the bigger problem with that is that if that's what they're looking to do, again, in my opinion, I would get all the stuff that they're doing once to twice a year and just rent one. To purchase one of these and just have it there to literally use on stuff. Again, I'll be completely honest with you guys. I have one of these. It literally is a waste of my money to have it. And the reason it is because I use it once a year-ish. I paid $1,000 for it. I would rather go, well, sorry. You keep talking, Justin, and then I'll go. Sorry. Or Joe, sorry.
No, I was just saying that when I see this on Google, I am far less concerned about it. But I agree with Greg's point. The only thing I don't know is talking about a big body of land. So is it once or twice a year? Is it every week? Is it every season?
Well, they're mowing it weekly.
The mowing I would expect to be on a weekly basis. Like Greg was saying, the chipper, I have a hard time picturing them using a chipper on a weekly or basis, or more than just essentially a seasonal basis.
I've got questions. So it seems to me, first of all, I'll say for the record that with the exception of the chipper, last month I bought all the rest of these things. Okay. And prices are in alignment with the tractor that I bought a couple months ago. But for the chipper, so my question is, if they don't get this chipper, are they going to have trouble disposing of et cetera, that they chop down and trim each week or whatever? Because if there's a disposal issue,
I didn't get the impression that they couldn't find a spot to throw stuff there. There's a good amount of land.
It's a good size plot.
Yeah.
And they don't have a chipper now, so it's not like we're replacing a chipper.
And can I also just like this? I've tried to. I don't know if you guys know, but it's so hard for me to keep my mouth shut. So I've tried so much. So,
I think we do know that, Greg.
thank you. I appreciate it, Matt.
Bless your wife.
Deaf and blind. So, does anybody know that we have a chipper?
Like across the town?
Yeah, like the town, like John Stone has a chipper. 1, 2. I assume he's not using it every day, so there maybe could be some sort of a conversation in between them. I talked to him last week, and he said if somebody would have asked me, I would. I don't know. I didn't know anything was needed. So maybe if they communicate with John a little bit, he might be able to help out a little bit or drop it out. And now he has a real one, not one of these little ones. I just mean he might even be able to send his guys who know how to operate it for a day every couple months or something like that, or for a couple hours that they need this done. On the second thing, I was thinking about this like all weekend long, which is weird, but so I thought to myself, why don't we try to figure out if John Stone has a decent lawnmower and get him one where when you go out and buy one of these Cub Cadets, again, I'm not trying to beat up on anybody. This is a lot of land. That tractor is not made to do that. It's just not. It's not what it isn't. These guys are not commercial farmers or anything, but the size of land, they need a better made tractor than what they're asking for. So I would venture to say if John has one that he could part with and we could get him another $5,000 lawnmower, it might cost us a little bit of money, but I believe we're going to get more use out of it. And then they get to reuse one of the ones that is more of a commercial one. Again, I don't know if all this stuff can work. I just think if we sort of go down that avenue, it's not even that we're going to save money. I think we'll basically get to the same amount. Well, we'll probably be $1,000 more to give him a $5,000 piece of equipment, Stone, for the DPW or whatever. But you know what I mean? Like, I just think that's a better way of doing it instead of going out and getting what I know. This is a lawnmower that, yes, it might not be like a Lowe's lawnmower, but it's pretty close, right?
But the difference, Greg, is the age group of the volunteers.
Yep.
That I think the Cub Cadet is perfect for them, whereas anything that may be more robust, maybe a bit more than they could handle.
No, I don't even mean it that way. Like, I'll give you the best for instance, right? So I have a John Deere X530. If you were to go to Lowe's and look at mine, you would probably be like, oh, it's the same thing. It's just not, though, right? So one's 10 grand, the other one's 2,500. You just don't, until you really look down on it, the knuckles, the transmission, the certain things that break on these things, they're not going to break doing your yard because it's a half an acre. But how many acres is this Griffin's Dairy kind of a thing? Isn't it a lot?
Well, but they don't do the whole thing. No.
Or even just a part that they're doing is what I'm saying.
It's a good amount, but I don't think it's not more than, a few acres that they're doing.
So when you start to get to 2 acres, that's where these things are somewhat needed. Like, and I'm not even saying to get a real professional one, which is now an X7 or a 1 Series, and those are the real professional ones. The other thing that I think, and truthfully, this is the way I function with most of my stuff. Like, I bought that off Craigslist. I didn't want to spend 10 grand, so I spent 7,500. You know what I mean? Like, it's just the way I functioned forever. And did I really save 2,500 bucks? Yeah, I bought it with 60 hours on it, and now I have 100. So, I mean, that's like no hours on a machine. You know what I mean? Like, so there's plenty of those kinds of things out there. If they want to buy mine, they can buy mine. I'm not even saying that, but like, there are things out there that they could do which would get them a better product instead of spending the 3 grand on what I think, from what I know, because I used to own them. When I first bought my house, I bought somewhat of the less expensive lawnmower. What happened? It broke down. I actually blew the transmission in the first one. It's under warranty, so it's not the biggest deal, but now they got to get it to the guy. They got to bring it to him. They have to fix it. It's going to be down. That, you know what I mean? They're not going to give him a loaner. Those are the things where it's just, if you're going to have something that's a little bit big of a property, you should have at least the middle of the road that you don't have to continue to do things to it. And that's my only thing. And I don't mean like what I'm talking about for John Stone's lawnmowers are like the ones you sit and go like this. So those guys will be able to do that. I don't mean like a big tractor. These are just like fast lawnmowers or faster. more powerful lawnmowers than what this would be. What this is basically, there's like 4 different kinds. There's a tractor, and then below that there's a garden tractor, and then below that is just like a lawn tractor. And this is a lawn tractor. A lawn tractor just isn't made to do an acre. It really even isn't. Again, it's just not. Again, I'm not even trying to be a jerk. I'd like to. It's obviously cheaper. My whole point would be if we have something that we can give and give John Stone something for $5,000 to replace it, that I think would be a better decision.
Well, it's worth asking. I
I
don't have a problem asking.
mean, I'll agree, but based on my experience from just buying one, I mean, I agree 100% with what Greg's saying, and there could be, yeah, that this is probably, it's, you know, Cupkit has a good name, that this is it's a good looking tractor, but I agree 100%, given my recent experience with what Greg just said. So yeah,
And I can, again, I know people, I know this like useless information for some reason, but like if you were to look at my tractor, you would, if you gut down, you would see like, oh wow, that is way bigger. Oh, those joints are greasable. Just things like that don't break down. You know what I mean? But when you're doing a half acre, there's really no chance for them to break down. You're using the lawnmower for 30 minutes or 20, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
When you're using it for hours, that's where it's, and when you have 2 acres, I mean, somebody's going to be doing, I mean, that's not going to take 15 minutes, you know what I mean? Especially on something like this.
Mhm. Do you want to table it till next week, Matt? And I'll
Let's
talk.
table that till next week. Who can follow up with both John Stone and the Griffin's Dairy people?
I will.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate that.
Mhm.
So we currently are in process of reconsidering. Our motion is currently to pass over. We will take this up again next week. Close out this information.
So you guys need
Article,
on it
oh,
next
go
week.
ahead, Sue.
We're gonna have a meeting on the 22nd, so we can post it in time.
What was that?
Just so you guys know, you have to make a decision on this particular topic.
Next. Yeah, we have to have recommendations on everything next week.
Thank you.
Allegedly.
All right. Now, if the selectmen are setting the date of the 22nd, then we have to have our recommendations on all articles by 14 days before that. And our last,
7 days for
and,
the
and
annual,
it's,
14 days for the special.
sorry, what was that, Scott?
7 days for the annual, 14 days for the special.
Yep.
But we'd like to.
But it also has to be
Who's going to get it
posted.
printed up and,
Yeah.
you know,
So
so.
the Finance Committee's manual says 10 days regardless.
Yep. All right. So now Article 17. Hang on one second.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's my.
Did anybody else get out to the senior center?
Yes. Justin.
Yeah, Chris and I went last Friday. Chris, do you want to tell the story of our visit?
Well, I'll start.
Did you
So
fall in the parking lot on the,
yeah, we
in the pothole?
we looked at the doors. We got the full tour. The woman there, Suzanne, is that her name?
Suzanne, yes.
Yep, Susan.
Yeah, her concern is the parking lot in the back is dirt, you know, gravel or whatever it is. And then in front of the building where the handicap spots are, there are some depressions, I guess is the word. And then further along in the front, there are places where there are cracks and things like that. Should it be paved? Yeah, it should be paved. Does it need to be paved now? Well, that's, I guess, what we'll decide. Then the doors in the building, there are actually like 7 doors to the building because there's 3 in the back that are like, service doors. And then there's uh, th- 3 doors that people are currently using for entrance. Although they say now that they're going to reduce the number, everyone's going to have to go through the main door. And the main door has 2, as a front door and then an inside door. But because of the COVID, they're going to have everyone go through that door. You can occasionally, some of the back doors, you can tell that they're not perfectly airtight, so it probably is losing some heat. One door is difficult to lock apparently, although now they're not going to use it anymore, so it'll stay locked. So that's the story with the doors. We asked Suzanne if she had a preference, one or the other. She said she'd rather have the paving done. Anything else I missed, Justin?
Yeah, I mean, when we went to visit, she actually didn't have any quotes yet for paving, and just sent one. I don't know if it was today or yesterday, but we just got a quote in the email. Yeah, it's approximately $90,000 for paving. So the amount that we're sort of funding, I guess, doesn't really work for paving.
Cover both. It doesn't.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't cover both, right? So it's 52,000
the total
to pay for 48,000 in window. Yeah. So
52.
So the amount that we'd be appropriating is 50. I'm sorry, I keep talking over you. Go ahead.
So it's 52 from the unused article from last year, and 48 from their program income.
I see. So technically, the two of those together could pave the parking lot, but just not the doors, I guess.
Right. It couldn't do both based off of the estimate that she has.
Yeah, I also went to visit, and to be quite honest with you, I think you absolutely should fund the parking lot. But I didn't feel as though there was a good enough plan to deal with the doors right now. Like you said, there wasn't actually a solid quote on it, but I think that they definitely need to be addressed in the future, but they might be able to be reworked and add some weather stripping to them and things like that to tighten them up, especially if they're not going to use them constantly. But that
she said that it wasn't
bad shape.
Yeah, and the parking lot gets used now a lot for the dog park as well. So it's not just the senior center. And then there's pickleball courts or something in the back. So I mean, it does get a lot of use.
I believe I saw that the dog park is either reopened or reopening soon.
Yeah, it reopened this week, and the pickleball.
Yeah,
pickleball reopened as well. So definitely getting use.
So should we adjust Article 17 to get the number down to 90,000? And
should we adjust that, or should we leave it at 100,000 for the purposes of parking, and it being an up to 100,000?
Yeah. Motion to recommend.
Just quick thing before we do that: is the parking lot is paved or it's gravel?
It's both. There's part that's paved and part that's dirt.
The part that's paved is in very
and the handicap spots that are for the dog park, they're basically like gravel with a little ditch when you pull in. So it's definitely not like a good handicap spot, that's for sure.
So not my only question, but one of the big questions is, could we turn it into like a gravel driveway, or a gravel parking lot, which might bring the cost down considerably and still being safe, only for the safety things that I know, that I've been to a million of these gravel whatevers. Has anyone maybe thought of that, or is that just like they don't want to do that?
Well, you're talking about seniors with walkers and canes and stuff like that, Greg, that I don't think a gravel parking lot would be conducive to them getting from their car to the building.
Yeah,
I would. ADA issues as well.
What is it?
We'll have some ADA issues as well. You have to have the ADA guidelines for a solid surface for whether it's a walker, a wheelchair, or whatever. The gravel isn't really good for that.
How many people go to this thing? like at
Yeah.
a specific point.
Yes. I would think if we were talking solely the dog park, that gravel would suffice. But talking about the senior center itself and the amount of use for elderly and seniors in town that they use the facility, especially going back to the pickleball courts and things. I think
a really big parking lot
we'd have
too.
issues with gravel.
Yeah, and that's the only reason that I say that,
Yeah.
Justin, is because I think my kid had a show there one day, and I was there, and there were obviously a lot of parents and grandparents, all this stuff, and that parking lot filled up. So that's why I'm saying, are there really that many people going there? But I guess if on a regular day that parking lot, I just didn't know if we could stop it at one place that we might be able to do exactly what you need or what you guys are asking for with pavement, just not go all the way to the back or something like that, like a sort of variation of that.
Like essentially a half paved, half gravel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Paved around the building.
Because I mean, you can do a lot with the gravel. Again, I
What was that, Chris?
If you paved around the building, you know, the back is dirt or gravel, but you know, that's for the pickleball people. But if you paved, as Greg is saying, if you paved, I don't know if it looks silly or you can do this, but if you pave most of the spots around the building and the handicap spots out front, and I don't know what to do with it, you know, over by the dog park, but maybe it can be a little cheaper, but it's still, you know, I think it's Justin diagnosed it right away that it's going to cost a lot more than $50,000 to pave that parking lot.
Yeah.
And so I was talking to John Stone a couple weeks ago, and they do paving for the town of Abington, like the roads and stuff like that. Do you think he might have a connection or anybody?
The quote that Suzanne provided was from John.
Oh, I got you. All right, good. Sorry, I didn't pay
It was him providing a quote of what he thought it would cost to do the job.
Got it.
Pretty sure he's not padding the price.
Yeah.
And it was, and from him, if I remember the email correctly, and I'm trying to access it right now while I'm doing it, but it was like he was referring to, where was it?
He was referring to the Southeastern Regional Services Group bid list.
Yep, and he referred to, for the parking lot, it was the price to grind, pave, and stripe the parking lot. And he said it would be around 80,000, but oil prices are a major factor in that, and oil prices are dirt cheap at the moment. By the time that this gets approved and would be done, it might increase. So
he's got that stripper, so that's a good price right there.
Stripper or striper?
Either.
That's another thing. Maybe it's cheaper to do it now. So
yeah.
So Russ, I believe you were starting to make a motion. Did we lose Russ? We lost his video.
Yeah, I'll motion to approve for.
But can we approve but change the language to talk about the paving instead of the doors, so that we're approving an item to do the paving and not the doors?
Yeah,
Is that
motion to
possible?
recommend Article 17.
Scott and Sue, what is our leeway here with that?
I can fix that for you as soon as, like right now.
Yeah. I mean, apparently it's been sponsored by the town manager. So can obviously.
So by you.
Yeah, so we can change it. We can make it whatever we want.
All right.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, we probably have to revisit those doors in the future.
Yep. But it sounds like it's not quite as drastic or not quite as immediate a need as
Yeah.
what we're looking at for other things this particular year.
But we're gonna leave it at the 100,000 just to have a little padding there and just in case, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Done.
So Russ, back to your motion.
Motion to recommend Article 17 after adjusting the verbiage to have this be for the pavement only of the senior center.
Second.
I was actually looking that time to see that it was Justin that seconded. Any further discussion on Article 17 with new wording? All those in favor of recommending Article 17? All those opposed? Abstaining? It is unanimous. All right. Continuing down, I think that covers the ones that we had not previously had recommendations on, with the exceptions of the two that we are waiting on and Article 7, but I'm going to just quickly run through to make sure before we go back up to Article 7. So Article 18 is one of the bylaw changes, 19 also bylaw changes, 20 and 21 are the other two bylaw changes, 22 is the PEG account, 23, and all five of those, just for those watching at home, all five of those we've taken action on already. 23, 24, 25, and 26 are roadway acceptances.
So can I ask a quick question about that? The roadway acceptance, is that something that like paves the way for something else to happen, or what exactly is that doing?
What happens with those is that until the town accepts a development, a road or a development, the town is not responsible for plowing it, mowing anything on it, sidewalk, pavement, things of that nature. When it is complete, the town is supposed to vote on accepting the road or whether or not it remains a private road.
Got it.
So when it is complete, it goes before the town as to whether or not the town will accept that. So the town does take on the responsibilities, if the roads are accepted, of plowing those roads and various functions that come with the town owning a road. And just remember, we did vote on the road recommendations as a group last time. So that brings us back up to Article 7, which is what we are doing with the funds that we took out of the capital plan and various articles that we are now not looking to put into stabilization, but are looking to put into our reserve fund. Sue, where are we at with that number?
That depends on what you're doing. Do you want to reduce Griffin's Dairy at least down to the 5,000 so that we can say that because that's what the quote is that we have instead of the 10. So if we reduce Griffin's Dairy number 16 to 5 and then ask the questions and then you make your decision on that, and we move the other 5 and the 9,000 from the wage classification, we would make that number $99,000.
Okay. Do people agree with that?
Yeah.
And that's something that again, we can revisit next week when we revisit Griffin's Dairy, if we need to make a change to that.
Motion to recommend Article 7 at $99,000.
Second.
Justin, that was you, right?
Yep.
Any further discussion on Article 7? Without any, all those in favor of recommending Article 7? All those opposed, abstaining, it is recommended unanimously. All right, that takes us through our business on the warrant articles. Find my agenda to go back to that. So going back to our agenda, do we have any liaison report? Before I move on to this section, is there anyone that has anything regarding any of the warrant articles, including the budget, that they want brought back at this time? I see a bunch of heads shaking no, so I'm going to go with a no and move on. Do we have any liaison reports? That also looks like a no. We have no correspondence. We have no minutes to review currently, which takes us to the end of our agenda. Sue or Scott, anything that you need to bring up for us tonight, in addition to what we've already gone over? Our next meeting is next Wednesday, June 3rd. As we've discussed, we need to finalize all our recommendations for next week. So we will need to go over the Griffin's Dairy article, which is annual town meeting Article 16, and we will need to vote on the budget, which is annual town meeting Article 1. And if anything changes with Griffin's Dairy, we'll have to go back to Article 7. But at least for now, we have recommendations on all but those articles. Are there any other
Motion to adjourn.
discussions? Motion to adjourn from Russ.
Okay.
Second from Joe. Any discussion? Without any, all those in favor of adjourning? We are adjourned. Thank you all very much. Appreciate your time. Talk to you again next week.